I wouldn't want to see Gardner Minshew coming in there, but I think it's sustainable, and I think the reason why it's sustainable is what Hurts is starting to do on these runs. If he sees that he doesn't have anything, he can't gain any additional yards, or it doesn't put him in an advantageous thing to make a play, he'll either slide or he'll go out of bounds. And I think that's the way you keep sustaining that. He's not going to get 3 touchdowns regularly. It's just not going to happen. But the way this offense is running with the threat of him threatening him to take off on that edge, especially that zone read, it's definitely working and opening up a lot of other things.
Nice to have a victorious Birds 365 on a Monday after a showdown between the Saints and the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. The first win of the year and the first win in 11 months. Well, we found out the Eagles can beat the Saints at the Link. We've known that now for a year change because it was the last home win that they got. Now they got to actually beat somebody else. Chris Franklin from NJ.com jumps aboard with us. Are the Eagles going to win another game at Lincoln Financial Field this year, Chris?
Yeah, I think I really think they are. The way the schedule's set up, there might be a couple of them. Who would have thought that looking at the beginning of the season? It's crazy.
Yeah, how easy is this schedule, Chris? But, where are we getting ahead of ourselves with the Eagles? I mean, back-to-back trips up the Jersey Turnpike, Giants, Jets. This can go really sour if they don't handle their business up at MetLife Stadium over the next couple of weeks.
I think the Giants one is going to be a lot tougher than I think people are thinking. They're treating this like their Super Bowl in a way, or a playoff game, because it's still very fresh in their minds what happened last year with them pulling Jalen Hurts in the first half. And I think they have, I forget who it is, but I think they're putting somebody in their Ring of Honor at halftime as well too. They're putting all their eggs in one basket because I think they thought they would be in a position.
It's like the homecoming game.
Yeah,
like
pretty
college
much.
Homecoming.
It really is. And so they're thinking like, okay, we can come back, and they kept us out of the playoffs last year. They're really taking this seriously. So you can't overlook it. In fact, I know this sounds weird. I'm more worried about the Jets game because I think it's right before a bye week, and it's the Jets. And you got, who knows, maybe Joe Flacco knows that offense a little bit more.
Joe Flacco slinging it yesterday. Jody, how was it? How was Joe Flacco?
He wasn't the reason that they lost the game. He wasn't terrible, but he was Joe Flacco. He wasn't great. Yeah. But I'm intrigued by what Chris said. I should know this. I don't. Didn't they already do the Eli Manning retirement thing earlier this year? Who the hell are the Giants putting in their Ring of Honor other than Eli?
I'm not sure who it is, but they're really.
Odell Beckham Jr. Is that really?
Thanks for going away. We know it's not Cleveland for sure with Odell, and he's not going to that rank anytime soon. But they're going to have a. I forget. I gotta look it up. I forgot who it was, but somebody's going up there. They brought him back specifically for that Eagles game. I thought, like, okay,
I did not know that. And Giants don't scare me. And by the way, I think the Giants get beat by 2 touchdowns tonight. So it's a short week for the Giants. Off a beatdown by the Bucs. Yeah, they can get their mad on. Are they going to be able to get their game on, though, and beat the Eagles?
I don't see it. Let's just offhand, just looking at it before looking at what happens, the film for this week. I just don't. I don't see it right now. I think the Eagles win this game, and I think they win it handily. I think the way the Eagles are running the ball right now, they're controlling the clock. And they've played a lot on defensively, especially too. They're playing a lot more press coverage, and they look better when it comes to at least applying pressure and are forcing turnovers. And when you look at what the Giants have issues with, they turn the ball over. And I think this Eagles defense and the defense will play well enough. And I think this offense can have a field day running the ball on the ground.
All right, we're jumping ahead too much. We got to talk. We got to enjoy the win. We got the 24-hour rule, Jody. So let's start with the New Orleans Saints. Where were you most impressed? I think obviously the running game continues. 200 yards. Offensive line gets a game ball again, Chris. Defense showed some life, more aggression against a poor quarterback. What were you most impressed with the Eagles win?
I think I was most impressed with the attitude the offensive line showed, because we know they're opening holes for those running backs and Jalen Hurts. But I thought when you look at the way Jordan Mailata goes back and defends Hurts, you look at the way Jason Kelce gets out there and not only gets 1 but 2 blocks on that long Miles Sanders run. You look at the way Mailata again gets into a wrestling match with Davenport. All those things you start to see, it's a byproduct of the running game, I believe. You start to get this physicality, get this mentality, you get to start pushing people around instead of taking all that all the pass rush, I think is now basically against that mindset, and they're feeling like the bullies now. And I think that's going to be key. So it's almost apt that this year, and once I'm prefacing by saying that I am not calling Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, John running in trades. I was for it, that. But the mentality those guys had when they were running the ball and the nastiness and that physical edge they had back in toward those years, you're starting to see that develop with this team now. And I think that's really important and key if they want to make a run and try to make a run into that 7th spot. And just overall for the future of this offense, I think they just need to continue with that physical edge, that aggressiveness. I think it'll bode well for them in the future.
And I'll double down on your praise of Mailata. Not only was he Mr. Protector yesterday, but he knows just how far to push the envelope. He does get his point across, but he doesn't get the flag thrown on him. So I guess they're keeping him separate from Derek Barnett, who, hey, give Derek credit. He didn't even take a dumb penalty yesterday. So the Eagles played well, played smart, played efficiently. They checked all the boxes for me yesterday.
Yeah, and getting back to the defensive line, I mean, I thought for one that I thought they did okay for what they were tasked to do. I really thought I thought it was encouraging also that Jonathan Gannon actually sent a couple blitzes. I mean, we saw who would have thought Avonte Mack should be one of the most effective blitzers coming off that edge, and especially when you start to put that on film a lot more. Now you're getting that tackle, whoever's going to be the tackle on that side, they see Avonte Mack. Now they got to think, do I have to slide out a little bit more to protect him? And that frees up things for the inside for, like, say, a guy like Barnett or Josh Sweat. Well, not Ryan Kerrigan, but there's other guys as well, too, potentially to go and get some more pressure.
All right, I'm going to get you in trouble, Chris. I'm going to try to get you. Big weekend for the Goddard and Maddox household. Howie Roseman gets them both under extensions, going to be long-term foundational pieces of this team, and they're playing good football. Is it time to give the devil his due? Is Howie Roseman doing a good job as the GM of the Eagles?
I think he's doing a good job when it comes to, I'll give him that 18 draft. I'm going to hedge my bet on this one. The 18 draft and structuring the contracts, I think he's doing a good job on that. Some of the later draft picks that he's made, especially the 2019 draft, the 2020 draft, really. I still got some questions on that. In 2019 draft, still a little questions on that. A few questions on there too. But
right at the top of the 2020 draft.
But I think overall, I think when you look at that draft class and what they were able to, who they were able to acquire, and even for a 6th round pick, Matt Pryor, for a 6th round pick, he was serviceable enough that you could use him as your swing guy for a little bit. It's not going to be your full-time starter, but he was serviceable enough that you could plug him in there, even though they trade him away. And they got a draft pick for him too. So that 18 draft, he did a good job. And I think when he comes to restructuring his contract and managing salary cap, he does all right.
All right, Chris, yesterday was another winning effort for the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he only rushed for 3 touchdowns, which doesn't happen in the National Football League. The quarterbacks get 3 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns in one game. As a matter of fact, it's the first time ever in Philadelphia Eagle history that a quarterback ran for 3 touchdowns. And they've had guys named Donovan McNabb and Randall Cunningham who could run it a little bit, and Jalen Hurts is the first ever to do it in an Eagle uniform.
Don't forget Mike Vick. You got to throw Mike in there as well.
And Vick. Yeah, by that point, he wasn't Mike Vick of Atlanta, but he was still maybe the best running back and running quarterback in the NFL.
We're not including Mike McCann in that?
Mike McMahon. Yeah.
Right. Here's my question. Is this sustainable? Can Jalen Hurts continue to do what he's doing right now over a long period of time? Or if you do this, are you putting your quarterback too much at risk? And I know everybody loves the mustache, but the Eagles are making an actual playoff run. Do we really want to see Gardner Minshew come in and decide whether the Eagles make the playoffs or not?
I wouldn't want to see Gardner Minshew coming in there, but I think it's sustainable. And I think the reason why it's sustainable is what Hurts is starting to do on these runs. If he sees that he doesn't have anything, can't gain any additional yards, or it doesn't put him in an advantageous thing to make a play, he'll either slide or he'll go out of bounds. And I think that's the way you keep sustaining that. He's not going to get 3 touchdowns regularly. It's just not going to happen. But the way this offense is running with the threat of him threatening him to take off on that edge, especially that zone read, it's definitely working and opening up a lot of other things. And when you look at Hurts, the one thing I'd probably say, even though he had 3 touchdowns, the thing that impressed me the most was that when the Saints, it looked like the Saints were trying to mush rush him a couple of times, trying to keep him in the pocket and trying to say, hey, you know what? We want you to try to throw downfield. And when he did that, he was able to connect on a few of those as well, too. He took time, and I think he had like 5 or 6 seconds on one of them was that too. But he took time. He scanned his progressions. Now, some of them weren't getting open downfield, and that's a whole nother issue. But he was taking that time. He was looking downfield, keeping his eyes downfield, and he was able to make a throw. So not only was he able to run effectively, and he can sustain that, continuing to slide and avoiding hits, but he's throwing well in the pocket too.
All right, Chris, we got a nitpick too. Nothing's ever perfect in the NFL. When you came out of this game and you're doing your wonderful work at NJ.com with our buddy Mike K as well, at Chris Frank at C Franklin News, right there. You can see it. What were your concerns coming out of this game for the Eagles? Were there many concerns? Got to start with ball security and Miles, I would imagine.
Well, that's one of them. I mean, especially when you're backed up to your own goal line and twice, well, within your own 20-yard line twice, and you fumble it, and you got saved by the referees on a one. I think that's one of them there. I know he's trying to come back out, get used to the game speed, get used to the feel of the game and moving around, but you can't. You got to protect the ball, and especially within that area, defenses are trying to make a strip and do what they can to try to go ahead and capitalize on that field position. So that's one there. I'm really concerned that if this team definitely plays better with a lead, but I'm concerned that, and I'm glad Sirianni addressed it, so he played conservative. They can't, when you get in those positions, you have to stick with what was running. And the Saints adjusted. I mean, we heard, I forget who it was, but somebody said they started stunning and slanting, and you saw it. They started doing the things, and it seemed like he went back to his comfort zone of throwing pass, and the offense stalled out. They were having so much success running the ball, they had to continue doing that, and it just seemed like they ran away with that. And I'm a little concerned that, because especially with the schedule coming up, the Eagles could find themselves in similar positions again and being up. And the last thing you want to do, especially against the division opponent, is give them life and believe that they're still in this game. So I'm a little concerned with that aspect of things as well, too.
Chris, potentially one of my concerns, again, this is a sustainability question. Can J.J. Arcega-Whiteside sustain 1,000% catch ratio? That if you throw it to him, he catches it and he makes a 23-yard gain. He's 100%. He's 1 for 1 in targets this year. Can he keep that ratio up?
I don't think it's going to happen, but the murmur that we heard, the surprise that everybody in that press box has when we all saw it was JJ that caught that ball, it was one of those things like, wow, he's there.
Double check the number, right?
Yeah.
I'm watching it on TV and I double check. Was that Whiteside who caught that ball?
It really was. It was a little shocking, and it was nice to see him actually contribute. I thought he would. There's a couple instances in the Eagles have used wide receiver screens so many times, and he's been the blocker on there. I've been waiting for to fake the wide receiver screen to, like, say Quez Watkins and have him take a shot deep and like especially around the in the red zone. I thought, I'm still waiting for that just to see what happens, but it was nice to see. I don't think sustainable. I think he's a tweener at this point. I mean, he seems like he's like almost like he's a tight end without being a tight end per se, because he's out there blocking so much and he's on special teams. But it was nice to see him contribute once, and I just don't see. I mean, if there was a prop bet on JJ Arcega-Whiteside catches for the remainder of the year,
it was the longest wait on a callback in history. You remember after the Atlanta game, Chris? Remember they had such success on the wide receiver screens, and Nick Sirianni actually brought up, at some point we have to reward them with a target here and there. Other people are going to know what we're doing. It only took him 10 weeks.
The element of surprise. You wanted to like, hey, like 2 weeks, no, 3 weeks, no, 5 weeks, no. They'll definitely remember. Now, hey, let's go ahead and get that. Like, it was a shock, and I was shocked. That took a lot of guts to call that play, and it really was. If Dennis Allen, I'm pretty sure Dennis Allen wasn't thinking, you know what, JJ Arcega-Whiteside's number one option, or 2 or 3 on that play, and it wound up hitting.
I want to run this by you because we talked about it already on the show, but I want to get your take on it too, Chris. My estimation, just personal opinion, a lot is being made of, the Eagles got their first win at home this year. They lost to the Bucs, who were the champions of football. They lost to the Chiefs, who were in the Super Bowl last year. And they lost the game that hung in the balance till late against the 49ers earlier this year. They were underdog in all 3 games, okay? All right, so they lost all 3. No big deal. Doesn't indicate they can't win a game. Oh, they're favored against the Saints. Guess what they do? They win by double-digit points. I think the fact that they were 0-3, people are blown out of the water a little bit that, oh, my God, the Eagles can't win at home. They haven't won in 11 months. Yeah, because 6 of the months were the off season. So what? It's 11 months. It's 3 games. They lost 3 games.
Of course, they lost to the Chargers too, Jeffy.
Oh, that's right. I forgot the Chargers, which, of course, last second field goal. One like they were blown out, got beat by the Chargers because they couldn't get off the field on that last possession. So you're right. You're right. 4 games. Then they were underdog against the Chargers too. So what home game haven't they won that they were supposed to win, Chris?
Well, the thing that even though they went in as underdogs, I mean, first off, a lot can happen in 11 months. Whatever the last remaining hairs I have in my head, they probably fall off. So I had more hairs at one point or another in 11 months. So it's a long time. When you look at overall, I still think they should have won the San Francisco game.
Yeah,
I still think they should have won that Chiefs game. They were in
Chiefs
there.
Game.
Yeah, I still think they could have won it if they adopted the philosophy that they've been using right now and running the ball and kept Patrick Mahomes on the sideline a little more. I think they could have played, especially against that defense, the way the Chiefs defense was at the time. They could have won that game. I really think if they adopted the same philosophy. Put it this way, not the way they were throwing it earlier.
But that's pretty good 2020 hindsight there, big guy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head reading Chris Franklin the day after saying, they could have beaten the Chiefs if they ran the football 30 times. I don't remember you writing that or McMullen writing that or me saying that here on Birds 365. Hey, nobody was going down that road at that time.
I did say the Eagles outplayed San Francisco. Should have won that game. They should have won that game on the field. I thought they got outplayed by Carolina. They won it. So I kind of looked at those two as sort of, Xing each other out. No, Kansas City, they got outplayed and they came back a little bit late in the game. That was when they were getting the garbage time numbers, whatever you want to call them, sort of the Saints numbers yesterday against the Eagles.
Right.
Garbage time.
Yeah.
Trevor Siemian. I think at one point, Trevor Siemian, his passer rating was 16.7.
Oh.
And all of a sudden you look at the end of the game and his passer rating is better than Jalen Hurts. Well, who was the better quarterback?
Don't you love that number? It's so subjective. Oh,
yeah, it's such a dumb number. Who was the better quarterback in that game? But, it doesn't take into account context and garbage time and the Eagles taking their foot off the gas. I did think it was interesting, Chris, that when Nick Sirianni was discussing the success of the running game over 200, 3 or 4 games, he put it all on Jalen Hurts. He said, look, this is the reason. I mean, the offensive line as well. But for people looking at Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard, they're getting openings because people are concerned about Jalen Hurts. And Jody asked you if it's sustainable. Here's my question. I'm not worried about Jalen getting hurt. Big, strong kid, smart. You can't legislate injuries, all that stuff. If they get to the point that they're behind again and they need to score, say, 10 points in the fourth quarter, can they shift gears? Can they throw the football consistently and come back in a game like that?
That's where I'd have a little bit of question still when it comes to him. I look at the way he seems to make big plays in big moments. That's been his MO since college, and I think he could do that. When I just look at some of the other possibilities they have to throw the ball, teams are going to start looking at Smith and they're going to look at Goddard, and basically take those away with like 3 or 4, whatever defense you play. And then I look at some of the other options that they have on the back end, which mentioned Rager before. He's having his issues. Quez Watkins, for life of me, I don't know why they're not using them more, but they're not using them.
Well, they don't throw the ball.
Right. Yeah. So you look at that, and then I think teams are going to start maybe putting a little bit more pressure. It's like if I'm a defensive coordinator in the fourth quarter, I'm in that situation, I'm blitzing him, and I'm bracketing Goddard, and I'm probably straightening the safety over wherever Smith is. And then I look at that offense, I'm just like, there's nothing there. So I still think any pieces, but also I think that when he gets put under pressure, especially from the right side, and he has to flush to his left, he's pretty much just going to come a runner one. So he still has to develop in that area. And if it came to a situation like that, I'm still a little hesitant when it comes to there. Prove me wrong, it's definitely possible.
I give Nick Sirianni credit for what he said yesterday about Jalen Hurts being the key to the Eagles being able to run the football, giving credit to his guy, which is a smart thing. I'll be that much more impressed when the opposing team's defensive coordinator says, yeah, we overplayed Jalen Hurts and the ability to run, and we left the gap open, and the Eagles did gash us and like. When a defensive coordinator on the opposition says it after the fact, then I'll give it 100% credence. For now, I got to at least temper it a little bit with the Eagles head coach trying to give props to his young quarterback, which he deserves. But I'd love to hear it from another DC. All right, if they can continue to run the football the way that they have, the breakout yesterday was good. John and I talked about this a lot last week as to how many carries each guy was going to get, how they were going to deploy their running backs. When they do it the way they did, you got to give credit to the coach that he seemed to push the right buttons at the right time. Is this going to be the format going forward? Is Miles going to be the main guy with Howard and Scott goes forward, putting Jalen Hurts and his own playmaking ability with his legs aside?
I think they really still believe in Miles Sanders. And I think it was evident, especially when they threw him back out there to start the game as well, too. And to me, I think if I just say if they run the ball 25 times a game, just for things up, I'd probably given about 15 of those to Sanders. I think he's that he can potentially be that dynamic of the back, but I'm throwing Howard in probably 10, and I'm giving the other 5 to if I'm just doing running backs myself, and the other 5 I'm giving to Scott as just another changeup. Sanders still has that big play capability, and especially we mentioned with Hurts and his ability to draw a defensive end away potentially or a linebacker in that. I think it just opens up more space for him to make a play and just one cut and he can go. And we've seen the speed that he's able to give. But there is something to the effect of having Howard just being that bulldozer. I'm putting the head down, north-south runner. I think that's effective as well too, especially when you're looking at goal line and short yardage situations. I think it's key. Now, if you're playing against the Giants, then I think we'll give more carries to Boston Scott.
Yeah, he does Boston Scott week, man.
Giant
Boston
killer.
Scott week. By the way, Nick talked about it like he didn't go away from Miles. He went away from Miles Sanders. Boston Scott started the second half after the 2 fumbles. The one he got bailed out on, as you mentioned. And then Jordan Howard got hurt. And then he went back to Miles Sanders. So I think Nick is kind of hoping people didn't realize that. he went Boston Scott to start the second half, and then Jordan Howard got hurt. And by the way, that's a potential big injury. We got to keep an eye on that. He's played so well. Then they went back to Miles Sanders because they kind of had to, and he had some success. Is that positive or negative that Nick is going with the hot hand? I think it's positive. I think it's positive in saying, you know what? These guys are effective. You're putting the ball on the ground. I'm going to go to these guys. They get hurt. I'm going to go back to you. Then you have the best of both worlds. Had some success with Miles Sanders.
Yeah, you stick with what's working. I mean, especially if you're getting 4 or 5, sometimes 6 yards a clip, you got to stick with the guy who's working and moving around. Honestly, I'm surprised that Sanders got right back in that drive right after he fumbled.
Yeah, right after he got back in. And then they went in at halftime and said, you know what? We're going to go with ball.
Change it a little bit. Because especially it's almost like they were almost in the same situations beforehand. Yeah. And he almost to me, I know they want to give him a short memory and say, hey, this didn't happen. But in that situation, no, especially if you're preaching ball security and no turnovers. And listen, this team's done a good job not turning the ball over as much. And especially if you're preaching that, you can't have a guy who's now you have to look at it now. He's just his 3rd year. He's got a history. He's got a track record now of dropping the ball, not being secure with the ball. You got to be a little worried about that. And so I wouldn't put him right back out there. I would have used Scott more. I would have used Howard more and rode within him. But I understand why he had to put Sanders in at that point. But I don't know if he's going to be on the field a little bit more with those little punching bag sticks and making sure he keeps that ball secure this week. But he has to fix that and fix it soon because it's getting colder. Teams are going to be more to try to strip him now every time he's on the field. So he's
Yeah.
got to fix that as soon as possible.
The reason I'll cut Miles some slack on that is that's one of the things you lose when you're out of the lineup. Not taking hits, not taking that pound. Your athletic ability, when to cut, how to cut, that never goes anywhere. That's ingrained in you over the years. You get away from taking hits. You're not used to it. He got stripped yesterday. I know. If he fumbles again next week, it's an issue. This week, had to get back into the groove of things. I'll cut Miles some slack for that. But that's the way I look at it. All right. John mentioned the injury to Jordan Howard, and something we need to keep an eye on. While that is true, more importantly is the injury to Darius Slay, who has been phenomenal at cornerback for the Eagles this year. Touchdowns aplenty, even though he doesn't play a ton of man-to-man press coverage. When he does, all he does is score touchdowns, which is pretty damn good. That's a key injury, and I'm sorry McPherson got beat yesterday. They can't afford to have him out of the lineup. Next week's game, I think, is an eminently winnable game against the Giants. I don't think the Giants are very good. I don't want to go against the Giants without Darius Slay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it bodes well. Like, he was on Twitter and Instagram posting a bunch of stuff and talking and laughing it up. So I wonder if it's going to be one of those Dallas Goedert things where we'll see him on the field and then basically on Friday injury report, full participant, and he'll be fine. So especially, but I think you need him because we know Vontae Maddox is better in the slot. That's where he's good. And to have to try to bump him out or bring in McPherson again, I mean, listen, McPherson, I still have my questions about the selection still, but I think he's a better outside corner. So you're probably going to put him out there, and he's still green and he's still learning. I just don't. If I'm the Eagles, I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable if Darius Slay's out there, but I think he will be in there. And listen, a hit between him and Nelson, I think that's a good outside cornerback duo. And if they keep them intact, at least for the rest of the season, I think they'll have to do some good things.
Now, let's talk. We haven't talked about the defense as a whole. Much more aggressive with Trevor Siemian, especially early in the game. They had a lot of effectiveness. I think same as Nick Sirianni took his foot off the gas. He admitted he got a little too conservative. Jonathan probably did as well in the second half. Overall, though, your impressions of the defense, its evolution, TJ Edwards playing a big part of it. Is this real, or is it just they're playing quarterbacks that aren't as good?
I think from one of my perspective, it looks like they're just looking at who's the quarterback, who's QB1 that week, and then they'll make that game plan, which you should do. But it just seems like they're more aggressive with quarterbacks who aren't in the top tier as opposed to some of the other guys where you should take your shot and see what can happen because they're going to carve you up anyway. And because when you look at whenever he went against Justin Herbert, Tom Brady's in the world, it just sit back and say, we're not going to let you beat us deep, just dink and dunk your way. And that's how you saw this over 70% completion rates against these guys. And it's to the point where I think he finally realized a little bit now he has to play a little bit more aggressive. And I think you're looking at the way that he's done it by sending some of those blitzes, by inserting TJ Edwards and Davion Taylor a lot more. I think that's the biggest thing of all. When you look at Edwards and Taylor, the way they're playing, the way they're being physical, and the way they're helping in the run game, especially, and some of those hits that Edwards are making now, it's making a lot of offenses think about when they send like receivers across the middle of the field now. Because if you see Edwards making a couple of those hits and you're a tight end or a wide receiver that has to go a crossing route, and you know he's lurking a little bit sometimes, it could make you adjust your routes a little bit from time to time. So I'm looking at, I think that was the Edwards and Taylor way was the first important change he made. But I think overall, like blitzing a lot more and telling his corners to play up a little bit more, I think helped out a lot. Will it last a long time? I want to see. I'm curious if that Cowboys game at the end of the season means something. I'm really curious to see how he plays that one too. Because looking back, I mean, Taylor Heineke played well the last couple of weeks, but I don't see him as like a top tier quarterback. You look at Daniel Jones, I don't see him as a top tier quarterback. That Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson, well, I don't know, it's just getting up, but no, they're not. So I want to see.
Don't forget Mike White. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, I forgot it.
Don't forget Josh Johnson. I think that Josh Johnson's going to play against the Eagles.
Yeah, I feel bad for him early in his career. I think he could have been okay, but yeah, no. But yeah, you look at that. You look at that list of quarterbacks. It screams be aggressive against them. I want to see if it gets against a guy like Dak Prescott, or I want to see it earlier in the season against some of his better ones, be more aggressive. But it's interesting how he plays it.
Chris, last one for me. And I need you to look into your Eagle crystal ball. And
Right,
only a
right.
couple hours down the road. This isn't way down. This is just
Yeah.
a couple hours down the road. One of the things that the head coach likes to use in addressing the media is the old double down theory. We're doubling down on it. No matter what, we're going to double down on it. And they doubled down on it, and it's paid some dividends for them. Will the head coach, without prompting from either McMullen or Franklin, you two guys are out. You can't go there. If one of your beat buddies does it, so be it. But will the coach double down on the plant analogy? Because they're 3-4 since the time the coach planted the seed on the plant. Does he go all horticulturist on us again today and double down on the plant analogy? The growth of the Philadelphia Eagles sprouting from the earth. Is the coach going there this afternoon?
I don't think so. I think he's going to. It would be great to see it. I still would love to see him come out in a T-shirt with like a tree roots and just in the middle of it and an icon. That would be great to say. And don't say anything. Just wear it and just go. Just to hammer it home. Like, see what happened afterwards. But I think he's going to. If I'm Nick, we'll get into my Nick hat. It's going to be about the way the team bounced back in the dog mentality.
Please, no dog mentality.
It's going to be the dog mentality. He's going to come back, and this team is fighting. They're young and they're fighting, and I think it's going to be. You hear a lot of fight and dog mentality this week. Not the horticultural.
You're definitely going to see that. Over under dog mentalities. I'd place at 5 this week, and it's a short week because Thanksgiving. And happy Thanksgiving to you at Chris Franklin News, ChrisFranklinNJ.com. My last one for you, the most important question. You said hat. Put your Nick Sirianni hat on. What hat does he have on today? Is he celebrating Bryce Harper's MVP? Is he trying to get the Sixers past all their COVID problems? Or is he going to go outside the box like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and go flyers on us?
I'm going to go way outside the box. I don't think he's going to go Union. Because the Union are in the playoffs. I think he's going Union.
I like that.
Union action.
It's a little bit. They don't because
5 for 5
teams. Yeah, I think they 5 professional teams. They go with that. So I think you'll see. I think you'll see a Union hat or a shirtsy or something like that.
How's his brother's high school team doing? Does he have a hat on them? He's got to show them a little love here at some point if they're in the playoffs. Wherever they're playing.
We'll hear about it. Trust me.
That Washington and Jefferson, either one with the college team. I think either one of those. I'm shocked you haven't seen the Washington Jefferson stuff yet. I've seen the Mount Union. Somebody else at the NovaCare goes to the Mount Union. I seen the sticker on there. I was like, okay, he's probably best friends with Nick. And there's a couple other things as well too. But I'm waiting for Washington and Jefferson and some of the other stuff. IUP as well too. I'm waiting for that to show up.
Chris, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on board. Always good to get you on. We will certainly do so again down the road. Thanks for doing it with us today.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, guys. Thank you guys for having me on.
Same to you, big guy. Chris Franklin, NJ.com. Here with us on Birds 365. All right, clock's ticking. We only got a couple of minutes left. We need to put a victorious bow on the show here on Birds 365.